According to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, there are about 2,500 completed, unabsorbed units sitting empty in Metro Vancouver, double the amount from a year ago.
All right, empty condos in Vancouver. There are 2,500 of these empty condos newly completed, and they can't get sold. So wanted to comment on this latest article. The empty condos, empty homes, this goes back a long way. So many years ago, the narrative was that investors were hoarding condos and leaving them unoccupied. And if you looked at this all stemmed from looking at the downtown skyline, the Cole Harbour skyline in the dead of winter, you would see a lot of these blacked out windows. You still do. And so, of course, investors are hoarding these and leaving them unoccupied. And at that time, a StatsCan report came out suggesting that roughly 8% of homes in Canada were unoccupied. And so, of course, it must be the foreign investors that are hoarding these homes, and that's what's keeping prices and rents elevated. So at that time, Gregor Robertson, former mayor here, brought in the empty homes tax. That was later increased by Kennedy Stewart. These are the two worst mayors we've ever had in Vancouver. The idea being this would deliver more product back into the market, boot out the speculators and the investors that are hoarding these empty homes, and that would alleviate the housing crisis here. That was the rationale for this. Now, of course, that was not effective for obvious reasons. What ended up, later on, this whole report was actually debunked. What it had done was conflated vacant homes with unoccupied homes. Very different situation. Home being vacant part-time, temporarily, and being permanently unoccupied. What had happened was there was a census on May 12th, 2016. Listen, there's lots of reasons why the units would have been vacant on that day. It doesn't mean they're unoccupied. They could be in between tenancies. They could be undergoing a renovation. That going back to that example of the Cole Harbour luxury condos. Well, in the dead of winter, think about this. Anybody who's buying a penthouse in one of these areas is going to be of some means. They're not going to be here all year. I guarantee you in the winter, they're gone. They're in Hawaii or Palm Springs. But there are no unoccupied condos. The whole thing was a myth. It's been debunked. Dilapidated, of course, my detractors will say, what about all these dilapidated single-family homes? Old homes. You can see the grass is 12 feet tall. Nobody's been living in the homes for many years. Well, yeah, they're probably waiting on development permits from the city of Vancouver and that arduous process. They're waiting on a land assembly, and right now the market, is very risk adverse. We have a very hostile business environment in Vancouver. Not a lot of appetite from developers to do land assemblies right now, so they might be waiting a little while for the market to recover. But these homes they're unfit for habitation. You wouldn't want to rent one of these homes out. There would be huge liabilities there. I could see somebody tripping on the stairs or the roof caving in. They're unfit for habitation anyway. They need to be redeveloped. Getting into this article though, mainstream media, 2,500 of these unsold new condos, and where are the buyers? And I agree. Those newly completed condos that were bought in pre-sale, those are slow. First of all, they're very, very expensive because, of course, with the inflation we've seen over the last few years, a new construction condo is going to be significantly more expensive than a 20-year-old condo. Anne McMullen of the Urban Development Institute, I interviewed this lady years and years ago. She says here that 80% of Metro Vancouver buyers can't afford these homes. They can't. They're far too expensive. Greg Zayati of Rennie, he says somebody spending around $800,000 wants to get into a 900 to 1,500 square foot 2-bedroom unit. But of course, that's not going to buy anything in the new construction market. I looked downtown the other day, 2-bedroom condos, 850 square feet. They're priced between $1.2 and $1.4 million. So you can see there's a massive chasm there. between what developers can build and deliver this product at and what people can actually afford. For $800,000 downtown, you're looking at a very basic one-bedroom condo now. So those are a tough sell. These developers are not going to keep building into this kind of market. So development is stalled. Nothing else is going to get built here except for purpose-built rental, which I've documented here. We are going to become more of a rental economy where it's just assumed that if you live in Vancouver, you're pretty well going to rent. But if you're looking to buy luxury new construction condos, there's inventory. You can negotiate some discounts there, but those are at a very premium price point to begin with. This article notes as well, unsold condos are heavily concentrated in Burnaby, Coquitlam, and Surrey. And I see that as well. When you go out to Brentwood, Burnaby, Coquitlam, they've been building like gangbusters out there. There's a lot of inventory to choose from. And if you want to get into one of these newer concrete condos, you can definitely negotiate some discounts on those. But in the Vancouver resale market, which is the bread and butter of what I sell, we're talking 1 and 2 bedroom condos, 3-bedroom townhomes, starter homes in East Vancouver. We're talking here the resale market now. I would say that quality homes priced properly, right? There's a lot of overpriced product right now, but if it's priced right, still in a fairly balanced market. And I think that would come as a shock to a lot of people. The other thing that might come as a shock is that in aggregate, in Vancouver and the markets that I work, prices are not really down more than about 5 or 6%. That's from all-time peaks when interest rates were at rock bottom lows. So prices haven't come off that much. We're talking the resale market here though. Pre-sale, if you purchased one of these luxury condos in the Alberni by Kengo Kuma or the Butterfly building, you've been completely obliterated here. Some of those are down 30, 40% in value. But that is a rarefied atmosphere. That represents probably less than 1% of this market. Another point on that, I would say, I was just at the Landmark on Robson. Now, this was bought in pre-sale. It's completed now. If somebody had come to me looking into this Landmark in pre-construction, I would have told them it's overvalued. I wouldn't have touched it. Now, though, that the prices have adjusted, I'm looking at some of these units now. They're meticulously, the attention to detail is incredible. Very, very high-end finishings. I would actually say they're pretty good value right now. Not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. This is premium luxury product, but I would say there's actually pretty decent value there in that because now it's completed and the developers have to offload that and they're giving incentives, decorating allowances, maybe throwing in a free locker. So that could be an opportunity there. Although I do see a lot of very nice 25-year-old, 30-year-old concrete condos in very premium locations that might actually represent pretty good value as well. The point I'm trying to make here, just to summarize this video, the people that are buying these condos that have seen this big correction here and that won't the market slow on, the people that are buying these are going to be doctors, lawyers, CPAs, high-tech industries making, well into the 6 figures incomes. This is not blue-collar workers that are going to be buying these. And that's the point I want to make here. If you follow some of the mainstream media, they would have you believe that the floor is falling out of the market, prices are crashing, there's a glut of inventory, and it's a fire sale bargain basement prices. I'm not seeing that. Not in the bread and butter of this market. Where I see it is, again, that rarefied atmosphere, the ultra luxury, which is probably less than 1% of this market anyways. I'm Jay Cooper. Feel free to comment below or subscribe. See you in the next video.